Hi gorgeous, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a very chatty get ready with me using the new Natasha Denona My Mini Cheek Duo. I want to go over my postpartum journey with you. My journey this time around, he is my 5th son, has been very different from my previous 4 children. I'm 39 years old. Cannot believe it. I'll be 40 this year. I did not ever think I would have 5 children. So I want to share my experience so that if you have experienced anything I have, or if you're going through something similar, or you're about to have your baby and go through postpartum, kind of know what you might expect or you may experience. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to start off today with my Urban Decay Primer Potion. So my son was born on December 5th, about 6 weeks ago now, and that was, or at least felt like, the longest pregnancy of my life. And I'll go through that in a different video, but the experience was really long, very, very difficult. I just felt like I was positive he would be born in November and not December. My original due date was December 11th. And I thought the way I was feeling and everything, and how everything was moving along, that I was for sure going to have him early. I was for sure going to have him in November. My 4th child was born 3 weeks early, or almost 3 weeks early. So I thought, well, this one most likely will too. I should probably prepare. I was definitely not preparing. I was really lazy about preparing this go around. I think because I had already had 4 children, I kind of knew what I was doing. I didn't want to rush anything. I kind of felt like, go with the flow. I've always overly prepped. This time around, he just decided he was going to take his time. He was not in a rush. He wanted what he wanted. It was all in his time. And I just sat back and had to just go with the flow. So after I had my son, we only stayed in the hospital about 24 hours. That was about it. My doctor delivered. She told me the next morning when she checked in on me, I could go home that day if everything was okay. I did go home that day. I'm going to take this shade here on my Singe 03 brush, and I'm going to work that into my crease. It wasn't long after I had my son that I took an emotional turn. And when I say emotional turn, like psychological emotional turn, I went from being super happy that, wow, he's here, everything went great. I had no complications from the labor and delivery. My pregnancy was overall healthy. I was very blessed. My son was healthy. I should have been over the moon, ecstatic. Everything worked perfectly. I got to go home the same day. I should have been happy. The first 2 days or so, I was happy and I was in a good mood. But before I even went home, they always the hospital will make you do a questionnaire to ask about how you're feeling, how you've been, your mood. And I filled that out very honestly. If you don't already know, I'm a registered nurse, so I did take that very seriously. I do believe in being honest. It doesn't benefit me to lie about how I'm feeling. I may not always open up about how I'm feeling, but I'm not gonna lie. I just believe that it doesn't help anyone. So when I answered that, I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think that it would go back to my doctor or anything like that. I just thought, this is normal. The end of my pregnancy was very difficult on me. I had a hard time finishing it out and working, because I worked up until the very last day, the very day that I went into labor. And, well, I didn't go into labor. Actually, I lied. Let me change that. I was induced. I chose to be induced. If you don't choose to be induced, or if you don't believe in it, I love that for you. It worked for me. That's what I wanted. So even though I went that route. I did answer the questionnaire truthfully based off of how I'd been doing the previous couple weeks and my mood going all the way up to having my son. I got a phone call 2 days later when I was home from my doctor's office. It was my nurse. I love that woman. She was amazing. She helped me through this entire journey. Anytime I needed to talk to my doctor or my nurse, she was my lifeline, and I could get the answers I needed, the information that was imperative at the time. So I talked to her, and she told me she had read the questionnaire, they gave it to them, and that they wanted to see if I would come in and see my doctor and talk about it, because I scored relatively high on that questionnaire. And if you're not familiar with it, it's a questionnaire. It's a postpartum depression screen or baby blues screen, whatever you want to call it, just to kind of figure out where you're at once you have your baby and to see if it improves or gets worse when your baby, or rather as you've progressed through your postpartum. I'm going to switch over now and go into the shade Nurture. This is a Sonia G Builder Pro. And I'm going to build that up in my crease. So I agreed to see my doctor. I saw her, I believe it was within the same week. No, it was at the beginning of the very next week. I went in to go see her and I talked to her. She talked to me about my screening and asked me everything that I was feeling, how I was doing since the baby, if it had improved. And I told her the truth that actually my pregnancy went difficult, but my postpartum felt like it was starting to go even more difficult. I was up all the time naturally because he's a newborn, but on edge. My anxiety was through the roof. I felt like I had to constantly count his respers, and I just genuinely did not trust being away from him. I felt like if I had looked away for even a moment just to go to the restroom or to make myself something to eat, whatever it was, that I would lose my son. I was genuinely fearful all the time, constantly worrying, constantly in some sort of panic mode. I just could not let go. And as I explained to my doctor, and all of the losses that I had, I felt like I could just not get comfortable and like the shoe was about to drop at any moment. It's a strange feeling of having multiple losses and finally having that rainbow baby, the one that you've been waiting for and trying so hard for. And instead of being happy and comfortable in those fresh few days, those happy moments, you just feel panicked constantly. I wasn't sleeping because of panic, because I would watch him sleep and just stare at him. And I told her, like, I will stare at him and just count his respirations, and it's unnerving. I talked to my husband about it first, actually, before the doctor ever called me to make an appointment. I actually told my husband, I got out of the shower and I told him, I need to talk to you. I need to tell you how I'm feeling because I don't like how I feel. And I just need to say it. And if I say it, maybe I will be able to move on from it and feel better. And he listened to me. He let me say everything I wanted to say. I was crying. And I was crying more than I've ever cried. I don't typically cry as often as I was crying. And I just could not seem to find that inner peace that I needed to be happy with my new baby. And it's not that I wasn't happy with him. Don't get me wrong. 100% happy with him. It's that I just wasn't happy at peace with my family being complete. Just happy at peace. Like, it's a feeling of everything is in its rightful place. I don't have to worry anymore. Everything is okay. And these are the fresh moments that you need to just soak in. That's what I mean by just wasn't happy. I told my husband that I needed to give myself a couple more days, kind of get through these few weeks and see if maybe it just tapers off, because it could have just been residual emotions from my pregnancy. But when she called me and told me that she wanted to talk to me about it, I was open for it, because I genuinely believe in getting help when you think you need the help. I'm going to go in now with this shade here. This is called Loyalty. It's just a creamy matte. I'm going to take that on a Sonia, oh, that's not a Sonia G, that's a Singe Beauty EOT, sorry, EO2, sorry Angie. I'm going to build this up in my outer V. So when I was talking to my doctor, and I'm sorry if I'm all over the place and you're having difficulty following, I explained to her, I don't actually like being on medication, because naturally they're going to bring up medications. But I genuinely feel I'm in a place right now that I need it to help me get through this moment, until things can kind of settle down and I can find that peace that I need to close my eyes and not worry and not stress out about his every breath, that I need to stare at him. And she started me on Zoloft. I also told her that not so much the constant sadness and the depression and the worrying that was getting to me. It was more the anxiety, where I was hovering all the time. The other children who wanted to see the baby or hold the baby. I was counting his respirators, like I had mentioned. All of these things that I could not keep control of, the desperate need to be in control, you know. It was more the anxiety that was keeping me from being able to relax and enjoy my son. So when I explained that to my doctor, we agreed to start Zoloft. I also started Xanax and Atarax. The Atarax is not the same as a benzo. It's not as powerful, so to speak, not controlled to the point where, like, you can take Atarax and it won't necessarily, like, bring you down the way Xanax will. With my last son, I felt elated all the time. I was always happy. I could put him down and walk away and take care of myself. I could close my eyes without panicking. I didn't stare at him all the time. I didn't feel like I had to micromanage everyone around me. I didn't feel like I needed to have control of every situation. I also felt like everything was okay and everything was right in the world. Now, sleep-wise, that's hit or miss. Every new parent can tell you. My feelings as, like, being able to eat, I was able to eat. I didn't feel like I was down in the dumps and couldn't eat and take care of myself. I was still able to take a shower as I needed to take a shower. I could still, you know, take care of me. And I took 3 months of maternity leave with my son. I felt like, you know, in that 3 months, I had nothing but the best experience bonding and a full family of support. My husband was the best support in the world. He took his paternity leave. We had the absolute best time bonding with our son and bonding in our marriage with our son, because that is also a change in dynamic as well. And that needed to be nurtured, and it was a wonderful experience. We were both able to kind of adapt as needed without me constantly panicking and worrying that something was going to go wrong or something wasn't right in the world. Now, I had a general overall feeling of happiness and content. I didn't cry all the time. I would cry once in a while, like for stupid things. Things just like any mom could tell you, like, that weren't important. They weren't life-altering. It is just random, and I'd cry for a little bit and be done and start laughing again right away, like any mom going through baby blues would tell you. And that for me was just genuine baby blues. I did not feel as though I was actually suffering or needed help whatsoever. Now, with Henry, my new son, The difference here is I want to switch back over to that Singe 03 brush and kind of pick up a little more of this original shade on my brush and kind of go around the perimeter of those shades, if that makes sense, just to kind of help blend everything a little bit more. Now with Henry, the biggest difference for me with him is that I have, or at least at the time, had a much harder time putting him down in his bed, being able to walk away, take care of myself, being able to feed myself. I could put him in his bassinet for maybe a second and run to the bathroom, but I would, honey, you need to go watch the baby. I would be on eggshells, trying to rush out of the bathroom, trying to rush whatever I'm eating or whatever I'm doing, and could not just feel at ease. I'm gonna pick up a Refer 13 and I'm gonna go into this shade here and kind of put that around my lower lash line. So, I say so a lot, I am sorry. Just gonna kind of sweep this around here. With Henry, I have not had the opportunity to just feel at peace. My hunger's been different. It's not that I don't eat or take care of myself. Being on medication has definitely helped make that easier for me. Sorry for my son yelling in the background if you can hear him. It's that I was feeling a certain way that I didn't feel like I needed to, or I wasn't thinking about it. And when you're not thinking about it, sometimes it's easier to go longer stretches of time without eating. I was unfortunately just kind of losing weight, or at least for the first couple weeks, a little more rapidly than my doctor was wanting me to. And I didn't think about that at all, because when she was asking, do you eat? Have you been eating? Repeatedly, I was like, oh, well, now that I think about it, yes, I eat, but I'm probably not eating enough. I definitely was not eating enough calories to sustain myself, was not eating enough calories to stay healthy. My son Henry is not breastfed. I breastfed all 4 of my children before him. And my experience with my son Ryan was so difficult for me that I just genuinely felt like I couldn't do it this go around. And I resolved myself to being okay with bottle feeding with formula. I decided with this go around, I needed to not put myself through that same stress and that same feeling of inadequacy, and just go ahead and formula feed him. And I'm okay with that decision. Now the flip side to that is I do feel guilt. And as much as I don't want to feel guilt, I do feel guilt because I feel like I should be breastfeeding my son. And a lot of that is probably more of the culture that we push, that, oops, my lighting wants to misbehave. Probably some of the culture that we push that we need to be breastfeeding, breastfed is best, but in reality, fed is best. And my mental state of mind, my mental health, my physical health, in all reality, formula fed was best for me, and I'm okay with that decision. But I still feel the guilt from it, and I'm getting better every day. It's not as bad as it was early on. It's getting easier, and in fact, it's made it a lot less stressful overall because I still work night shift. I'm on maternity leave, but I get 8 weeks of maternity leave this go around. At least that's what I gave myself. So in the US, I don't get maternity leave unless the company offers it. There's no federal maternity leave. I sure wish there was. But no, I'm giving myself 8 weeks. I start up a new contract with my job, my company, in February. I am certainly not looking forward to going back to work so soon because I just feel like I just had him, and wow, time is flying by. And I'm sorry if my lighting is kind of in and out. Like I feel like when I look at it, it gets brighter when I'm doing this eye or when I'm not necessarily like in focus a bit. There we go. Now, other than my appetite and not really like eating as I should be eating, if you've ever taken a antidepressant, or an antidepressant, excuse me, if you've ever taken one, then you know they take a few weeks to settle, like to kick in and like really start to work. And I'm gonna go in now with that light shade Loyalty on a Singe brush, the original brush that I used actually, and kind of buff that around this edge here. You know they take a couple weeks to work and to kind of level out. If you've never taken one, they take at least 3 to 4 weeks for you to level out after starting them. And most people, do need to taper their drug. So you will end up going back to your doctor and potentially increasing your dosage. So I went from starting on 50 milligrams of Zoloft to I'm currently at 100 milligrams of Zoloft, and that is working for me. And until I see my doctor again, I feel like I'm okay with that dosage. And after talking to her, if she feels like I need to up it, then we'll cross that bridge when I get there. But for now, I think it's working. I'm going to switch to a Synergy Builder Pro here, and I'm going to go into this shade Devotion and pick that up. Well, it might not be the best brush for this, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put that here on this outer third of my eye, right over that deep shade that I laid down. And I forgot to mention at the start of the video, but I am going to be putting a pastel shade in my inner corner. I just want to give myself a bit of a pop of color. Sometimes people need to do a hobby that works for them to help keep their mind off of whatever it is they're going through. And for the last, well, more than a decade now, my hobby is weightlifting. I have been doing it for so long now, it's second nature. Now, I have not kept up with it over this last pregnancy. The back and forth miscarriages I had, the losses I had kind of hit me to a point where I simply could not keep up with my physical desire to do so. And I needed a break from it, which isn't necessarily the best thing to do. It definitely would have helped me in hindsight, but also the constant up and down with my hormones. Yeah, hormones and emotions. It was too much for me to maintain. And then you throw on being on night shift, and you throw on working nights, 12 hours a night, sometimes longer, and flipping your sleep back and forth for your family. And it's even more difficult to maintain that lifestyle. So I wasn't necessarily too mad at myself for not being able to keep up with it and gaining weight and losing muscle mass, which I can get back. I'm not going to beat myself up for it. It's definitely something I can get back. But I do have a long way to go because it's been 2 years of up and down in my life. I'm going to go in now with the shade Passionate on that same brush, just cleaned it off. And I'm going to place that. Ooh, that picks up a little bit better. I'm going to place that here on this inner third. Very pretty. I like how that looks. I started working out again. I told my husband, look, the only thing that's going to help me kind of get through this is going back to my gym and working out, getting my mind and body right, because if I don't feel good in my body, my mind is not right. And I can take all the antidepressants or meds in the world, but it won't work for me overall. And I don't want to stay on meds. I don't want to stay on meds. That's the difference. So we cleaned up our garage when I had my son Ryan, we converted our garage to a gym. And I've got everything in there I could ever want. There's a few pieces here and there that I kind of would like to have, but we don't really have the space for it. But everything I have in there right now works, and I can do every workout I want to do. Ooh, that looks beautiful. With the setup that we have. So I started last week. I reactivated my FitnessPal. And let me tell you, if I don't use my FitnessPal, I will not be held accountable for what I eat and how I work out and what I do, because out of sight, out of mind. That is a reality with me. It just is what it is. I have to use it. So I hold myself accountable by using MyFitnessPal. I'm just gonna build up this outer corner here just a little bit more. Just kind of tap over where I place that shimmer on both sides. So before I pop that pink into my inner corner that I want to use, I'm going to take a black shade by Rabanne. I got this from Ulta. It's just the little duo, the two black shades here. Why did I pick it up like that? It's just this little duo here. There's a shimmer and a matte, and what I want to do is take a very thin brush and kind of sweep that like a winged liner on the edge of my lid. I'm gonna go into a Blend Bunny, what is this, Sickly Sweet palette, and I'm going to pick up this shade here, Just Peachy. It's like a pastel peach shade, and see if it kind of works. Yes, it does. Just want a kind of a pastel pop. I feel like I'm ready to just focus on what I want to do for my body and for me, my goals. I want to go back to school. I think what I want to do for school is get a master's in informatics. That is still on the table. It's not going to just earn itself, so I'm going to have to kind of buckle down and just do it. And I would like to learn how to do my own nails, because this darn lighting situation, I'm very sorry. I did my own nails for the first time ever. 39 years old, did my very own nails, and I loved it. It was the most relaxing, insanely relaxing thing I have ever done for myself, just sitting here in my own home. I loved it. I loved it so much that I went down a rabbit hole trying to figure out everything I need to do to learn how to do my own nails, how to create my own press-on nails, how to wear them, the best types of tools I would need if I want to get started, getting back into my weightlifting, feeling good in my body again. I finished my eyes off camera. I used a Cupid's Arrow from Nabla in the shade Ivory in my waterline here, my Lisa Eldridge black liner to tight line with. I also decided I'm just going to use my half lashes. I love these half lashes by Bright Lashes. These are in this style Flutter. These are my favorite so far. So Natasha Denona's new Mini Dream Blush, Glow Blush. It's the brick one that has the cute little, how do you say it? You're supposed to mix them. This one's the highlight shade, and then there's two blush shades, a light tone and a deeper tone. I'm just going to mix the three shades together, but I want to lay down her original cream shadow here. This one is in her original My Dream Cheek Trio Blush and Highlight palette. This one came out holidays for 2022, I think it was. I'm going to use this shade here, and I pick it up with the little Blend Bunny brush. This one's kind of a dense dome top here. I just like the way it blends out with it. The symptoms I feel postpartum for this pregnancy, or this baby rather, because I'm not pregnant anymore. Irritable, loss of appetite, which is also a side effect of antidepressants. Restlessness, I do have quite a bit of that, but I think that's getting a little bit better. I like how that looks. That's pretty. GI intolerance. I still have quite a bit of anxiety, just the what ifs, the constant worrying of inadequacy. Let's see, migraines, they got worse when he was born. I had a migraine for 2 weeks straight. That one I do consider a symptom. I do remember having a migraine with my son Ryan when he was born. I'm gonna pick up a Sydney Grace brush. This one I just use for blush. I'm just gonna pick up all three. My appetite has changed quite a bit. I wouldn't, as I make a mess, I wouldn't say I'm not hungry. I'm not as hungry as I should be. That is beautiful. I still get severe heartburn once in a while, depending on what I eat. If it's spicy, nausea is pretty much gone. I don't really have nausea anymore. That's good. Back pain, I have a lot of back pain, more than I ever have in my life, and I used to do orthopedics, so yeah, I have a lot of back pain. This blush turned out beautiful. I love this. This turned out so pretty. So outside of starting physical therapy, which I'm excited about because I definitely need the assistance with my pelvic floor. After 5 babies, it's just not the same. I feel like my irritability is getting better. I feel like my anxiety is getting a little bit better to manage. But I think with the help from my doctor and focusing on my diet and focusing on eating enough and working out, taking care of myself, taking better care of myself, I feel like that is starting to taper off. So I'm just gonna kind of focus on that. I'm gonna pick up a new hobby when I go back to work next month. I'm gonna set aside time for myself during the week so that I can manage me and not slip into postpartum depression, because you still can. If you are someone who is going through a heavy baby blues or on the verge of postpartum depression or going through postpartum depression, talk to your doctor if you have not already. Talk to someone you love. Get the help now while you can. Get help early. I cannot stress that enough. There are programs to help with it. There is a community out there of women like myself to help and that will listen, you can talk to. Before I end this, I do want to say I used 2 things on my lips today in case you were curious, because the last time I talked about what I wore, I forgot to mention my lip pencil. I have the DIOR lip liner in shade 100 and the DIOR Addict lipstick in 100 as well. But that's gonna be it for me. I love the little pop of pink. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I can't stop staring at it. It just turned out so cute. I'm so happy with it. Do something for yourself today because you are worth it. Bye guys.